What up, is Marcus Dynasty Fun Dads? We're talking preseason football. Whoop, whoop. We have a DeAndre Swift signed jersey we're going to be giving away when we hit 2,000 subscribers. This is going to be a short video here on Friday because there's not much that has happened. There's been only a couple of games. Talk about the Hall of Fame game here first. We had Jacksonville versus I almost said Oakland, Las Vegas Raiders. And so really we didn't see much through here. Right? There's people making all sorts of comments about how Josh Jacobs played extensively. He played, I believe it was like 11 snaps, and he had a couple rushes and catches. And ultimately, I think the Raiders' backfield is going to be a mess. I think people that are expecting Zamir White to be the breakout, I think are going to be disappointed. I think the people that think Josh Jacobs is just going to continue to do what he did the previous couple of years, being basically a low-end RB1, are also going to be disappointed. I think the only person really to buy in this offense is Kenyan Drake, because I think he was known as a pass-catching back in Miami. I think that's what you're going to see a lot of in this Raiders offense. You're going to see him being into that J.D. McKissick, that James Cook, that Nyheim Hines role, which is it going to be super valuable? Nah, it'll be an RB3, RB4, but right now I think that you could potentially use him if you're a contender and you kind of hope one of the other two running backs get hurt. Zamir White, I think, is going to split some of Josh Jacobs' carries. And really next year you could see, because Josh Jacobs' fifth-year option did not get picked up, so you could realistically see Josh Jacobs gone, and then you could see the Kenyan Drake, Zamir White, and to be named 2023 draft pick playing in that backfield, continuing a mess. Think Miami Dolphins. Think sometimes the 49ers. I think just these offenses, they will sometimes produce running backs at a couple-week clip. And if you're really hoping for injury. If Zamir White or Josh Jacobs gets hurt, I think that is what's going to propel one of the other running backs to do well. I think Kenyan Drake's just going to carve out his pass-catching role, and that's what it's going to be. The Jacksonville Jaguars, we didn't really see anything there. We're not going to see anything. So we go into another game where we have the Titans in Baltimore. I mean, there was big, huge, oh my goodness, Treylon Burks looking absolutely horrible. He's playing with third strings and fourth strings in practice. Ultimately, we heard, not to the extent, but we've heard things with Jamar Chase, and we've heard things with even Justin Jefferson being the third string wide receiver. Oh, maybe he's playing as a fourth string wide receiver. A lot of it is talk, and so I still believe Treylon Burks being a really, really good wide receiver. Does he? The concerns are starting to mount a little bit. We already had some red flags, and these red flags seem to be expanding a little bit. So if you're worried about that, Treylon Burks is already a super boomer bust type of player, and if you are a safe type of investor, Chris Olave is for you, because he's not going to be super boom and he's not going to be super bust. He's going to carve out a piece of the offense. Excellent route runner, horrible yards after the catch type player, but it has great hands, great speed, great separation. That is the ultimate, what kind of fantasy dynasty player are you? Are you super boom or bust, or are you super safe? And depending on what your roster construction is, might dictate what that looks like. And Jameson Williams is kind of the same thing. Another boomer bust player, also recovering from ACL, only produced 1 year at Alabama. So I don't know how I got off on this tangent, but just know that I'm not super worried about Treylon Burks. Malik Wilson, this is why I had him as a second-round pick in Dynasty. In fact, I got him at the end of the second in the Dynasty Dads group. It's just the fact that he is extremely athletic, and you see that. You see glimpses. Honestly, you see what could make him be an elite talent. And then there are other times where you just shake your head and go, what was that? And so what he reminds me of is he reminds me a lot of Jalen Hurts. And so you might see a lot of Ryan Tannehill this year. But if Titans are A, not competing, or B, next year, this 2023 season, if they don't draft a quarterback, Malik Willis will be the starter. And having Malik Willis being the starter will automatically give you fantasy production because he will run. And it may be ugly at times. He may run more than he should, especially for a young quarterback. They like to run versus actually use their arm. You look at Justin Fields. He was not really confident in passing, but in running, he just wanted it was like pressure on, I'm going to run. Versus where you even see some of the great quarterbacks, they have pressure, they step up in the pocket and throw, or like Aaron Rodgers rolls out and throws. So it's just one of these things. Malik Willis has a lot of growing up to do. But at his age, I mean, you're talking about a rookie, and you're talking about a guy who has some attributes that are very attractive with a huge arm and great speed and legs. I'm still going to be drafting him early to mid-second in Superflex. He's one of my favorite go-to guys because of his upside. I mean, if you look in 3 years and say, well, who is going to be, if you were to redraft this class, what are some of the names that I'm looking at as like a top 3 pick? Breece Hall is by far the money that I have would be the number 101 if we redrafted the class in like 2 years, maybe even 3 years. Again, we have potentially Treylon Burks is a big boomer bust guy. Garrett Wilson is up there. I mean, Drake London's up there. But also Malik Willis is up there. And Malik Willis easily could be one of those guys that we go, wow, man, he should have been a top 2 or 3 pick. He also could be one of those guys that ends up flaming out and ends up not producing at the NFL level. And we're looking at like a Geno Smith, or we're looking at even an RG3. I mean, hopefully he's also one of those guys that if I can get him like Jalen Hurts, when I had him, I was immediately trying to trade him because I don't know his longevity in the NFL. And so sometimes you gotta caress the power and then release it. And then, I mean, because easily a second round pick, if he ends up performing at all, you're going to be able to get that money back plus more in draft capital. Baltimore. Not much in Baltimore. I mean, really, there's not. Baltimore is still going to be determined with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards on the injury recoveries. Tyler Beatty will be probably the starter. If neither of them are healthy, I still think that J.K. Dobbins will be starting week 1. I know he had a more significant injury, but I think that J.K. Dobbins will be starting. Now we look at the rest of the Baltimore offense. I believe in Rashad Bateman. Mark Andrews is my tight end 1 of this year, not in Dynasty. Of course, I belongs to Kyle Pitts. And Lamar Jackson is going to have a fine season as well. He'll be a middle-of-the-road QB1. Has that QB1 overall potential because of his rushing ability. And he could even perform like he did, I think it was 2 years ago, where he was QB12. So there's a lot of different possibilities for Lamar, but he'll stick as a QB1. We go into the New England game. There's not much to say about the New England game. I mean, really, the only thing that I saw that was of any note was basically Tyquan Thornton caught a touchdown pass. And does that make me a fan of him? No, he's a pure speed guy from Baylor. And I like speed, but I think that's one of the most overrated attributes. Going from college to the NFL level, we've seen plenty of fast players basically flame out and not be successful at the NFL level. So are you saying, hey, like Tyquan Thornton, are you moving him up in the rankings? Not one bit. So really, I mean, that's been the NFL preseason so far. We have a bunch of games today, tomorrow, Sunday. Vikings are on Sunday. So I'm excited to see what happens with some of these teams and what they do. And it's not going to change my rankings a ton. I mean, it really isn't, because it shouldn't. We've already done all the hard work. And if you're believing the hypes, sometimes that will detour you from, I don't know, it distracts you from the actual people that, like Jamar Chase. Lots of people moved Jamar Chase down once he started dropping the ball. Did he move at all for me? No, not one bit. Why? Because I believe in the process coming up into the preseason. I know preseason, a lot of it, people, they're not out there to necessarily, is Jamar Chase out there going, I need to win a job? No, he's got a job. Or like some of these wide receivers like Drake London or Treylon Burks, maybe Treylon Burks needs to work a little bit harder. Garrett Wilson, are these players out there knowing that they have a job on the line? No. Is some of these 6th, 7th rounders, do they matter a little bit more? Yeah, they matter a little bit more. So we need to keep an eye on that, especially some of the situations with like Ronald Jones, like the KC backfield and stuff. Does he get cut, or who does get cut? Like some of the cuts will actually make a little bit more maybe clarity, or it'll move up some of these 6th, 7th rounders up a couple spots. But we cannot be too dramatic. We cannot go too crazy because of this preseason hype. We need to stay strong with our rankings. And just do very tiny tweaks, but nothing crazy, because ultimately the process of doing the draft capital and on the process of research and video has already been done and laid upon. So we need to make sure that we keep it that way and don't just whoop at the last second go, never mind, I just erased all the work I did for 5 months. All right. So stay strong there, Dynasty Dad Group. Peace out. Take care. See you on Monday.